The wind howled down the street, rattling loose leaves against the sidewalk and sending sharp chills through every passerby. It was the kind of night that warned of coming snow, with the sky low and gray, and breath turning white as it hit the air. At the corner of Maple and 3rd, the only figure at the bus stop was a woman with her arms wrapped tightly around herself, shivering beneath a thin blouse. Ethan Morgan noticed her the moment he stepped off the curb across the street. He had just finished a 12-hour shift at the auto repair shop. His hands were still stained with grease, and his shoulders ached from hours hunched under hoods and engines. All he wanted was to get home, eat something cheap and hot, and collapse. But the wind howled down the street, rattling loose leaves against the sidewalk and sending sharp chills through every passerby. It was the kind of night that warned of coming snow, with the sky low and gray, and breath turning white as it hit the air. At the corner of Maple and 3rd, the only figure at the bus stop was a woman with her arms wrapped tightly around herself, shivering beneath a thin blouse. Ethan Morgan noticed her the moment he stepped off the curb across the street. He had just finished a 12-hour shift at the auto repair shop. His hands were still stained with grease, and his shoulders ached from hours hunched under hoods and engines. All he wanted was to get home, eat something cheap and hot, and collapse. But something about the way the woman stood, trying to stay invisible, trying not to seem vulnerable, made him pause. He glanced at his own jacket. It was old, patched, faded at the sleeves, but warm. And she looked like she had none of that. Ethan approached slowly, his voice low but kind. "Hey, you okay?" The woman didn't look up at first. Then she lifted her head, revealing tired eyes and trembling lips. "I'm fine. Just waiting for the bus." Ethan looked down the street. "They're running behind tonight. It could be another 20 minutes." She nodded, hugging herself tighter. Without another word, Ethan unzipped his jacket and held it out. "Here, take this." She blinked, startled. "What?" "No, I can't. You're freezing," he said simply. "I've got another hoodie in my backpack. Please, take it." Her hands hesitated before reaching out. As her fingers brushed the fabric, she looked up at him again, studying his face as if trying to remember it. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan smiled, then turned to leave. He didn't ask her name. He didn't even catch the bus. He walked the 4 miles home through the cold, his breath sharp, his body chilled, but his heart warm. 2 weeks later, Ethan had all but forgotten about the night at the bus stop. His life was a routine: wake up, fix cars, eat canned soup, crash. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and he was proud of it. He didn't need much. At 28, he'd learned that kindness didn't cost money, it just required a little heart. That Monday morning, the shop buzzed with a different kind of energy. "Big news," Mike, the manager, whispered to Ethan as he tightened bolts under a Honda Civic. "We're getting a new owner. Some corporate deal. Whole chain's been bought out." "She's coming today." Ethan asked, wiping his hands on a rag. "Yeah. CEO. Young. Supposed to be brilliant. One of those secret investor types who just bought half the town." Ethan shrugged. It didn't matter to him who signed the paychecks, as long as he kept working. By noon, they were all called into the front office. The garage smelled of oil and coffee, and the workers stood around awkwardly as a black town car pulled up outside. The driver opened the door, and out stepped a woman in a navy coat and heels that clicked sharply against the floor. Ethan didn't recognize her at first. She walked with confidence, chin high, but when her eyes scanned the room and landed on him, they softened. "Hello," she said, her voice calm, deliberate. "I'm Alina Rhodes. As of this morning, I'm the new CEO of Rhodes Auto Group." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Alina's gaze lingered on Ethan a moment longer before continuing. "This location will be undergoing some changes. Positive ones. better conditions, higher pay, and respect for the people who keep this place running. Someone whistled low. Ethan looked down at the concrete, something nudging his memory. The eyes. He looked up again, studying her face more closely. The shape of her lips. The way she tucked her hair behind one ear. His stomach dropped. It was her. The woman at the bus stop. She wore his jacket. No, not anymore. She wore designer clothes now. But he knew. Her expression confirmed it. Alina didn't mention it. She didn't even nod his way. But Ethan knew. That evening, Ethan stayed late to close up. As he walked toward the break room, a soft voice called out, "Ethan." He turned. She stood at the back door, her coat draped over her arm. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" He nodded slowly and followed her outside. The lot was quiet, the sky darker now. A single street lamp flickered above them. "I didn't get to thank you properly," she said. "You remember," Ethan replied. "I couldn't forget," she said with a small smile. "I had just flown in from Chicago. My hotel lost power. I didn't tell anyone who I was. I wanted to see the city without filters, without handlers." She hesitated, voice softer now. "That night, I was more than just cold. I was lost. My whole world was changing, and you gave me warmth when I had nothing." Ethan looked down, embarrassed. "It was just a jacket." "No," she said. "It was more than that. It reminded me of who I wanted to be. The kind of company I wanted to build. One where people like you, kind, humble, hardworking, were seen and valued." They stood there for a moment, the silence thick between them. "Can I return it?" she asked, reaching into her bag and pulling out the same old jacket, neatly folded, freshly cleaned. Ethan stared at it, then shook his head. "Keep it," he said. "It found you for a reason." Alina smiled again, eyes glassy. "Thank you." She started to turn away, but paused. "Do you like fixing cars, Ethan?" He nodded. "It's honest work. I like helping people." Her eyes lit up. "Would you ever consider something more?" "What do you mean?" "I need someone I can trust. I'm restructuring the whole company. A lot of these shops are mismanaged. I could use someone with integrity. Not a suit, someone real." He blinked. "You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a future." Ethan laughed, shaking his head. "Why me?" She met his gaze. "Because you gave without expecting anything back. That's the kind of leadership I want." 4 months later, Ethan walked into the newly renovated office in a clean button-down and jeans. His boots were still dusty. He liked to keep things grounded, but his new role meant he split his time between the garage and the boardroom. He was now the regional operations manager for Rhodes Auto Group. And Alina, she was no longer just a name on an office door. They had dinner once a week now. At first, to talk strategy. Then, about life. Then, just because. One evening, after a long board meeting, they sat outside a downtown cafe, coffee in hand, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled. "All the time. I almost didn't go to the bus stop. I almost called for a ride. I almost walked the other way." She nodded slowly, then reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. "Funny how everything can change with one act of kindness." He turned his hand over, wrapping hers in his. "Sometimes, it's all it takes." They sat there long after the coffee grew cold, two people who met as strangers, lost in the storm, now sharing a future warmed by something deeper than coincidence. 6 months later, the Rhodes Auto Group was thriving. Under Alina's leadership, and with Ethan's insight from the ground floor, they had transformed over 30 locations into thriving, employee-focused centers. Staff were happier. Customers noticed the difference. But more than that, something else was blooming. Ethan found himself looking forward to more than just work. There were late-night phone calls, quiet dinners, glances that lingered too long. One night, after a company gala, they stood under the city skyline, her heels in